Wait, we're finally going to see Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon interact after episode 3? Well, that's great. I can't wait to see what they do with that.
I was always here, Obi-Wan. You just were not ready to see. Come on, you've got a ways to go.
That's it?
Oh, good. Nothing.
Obi-Wan, you just were not ready to see.
Oh my god, it's Jangly Keys! I've missed you so much, Jangly Keys! Every true Star Wars fan loved this moment. The show wasn't the greatest, but it definitely had its moments, and this is one of them. Well, I guess it's time to hand in my true fan card. What praise could you possibly give to this scene? That they got Liam Neeson back for 10 seconds? I mean, he's not even a hard actor to get back. He reprised his role in The Clone Wars and Tales of the Jedi. He clearly loves playing the character. And to be honest, I think they may have misled him a bit.
Where Obi-Wan has gone through some journey, and he's reaching out for help. And you're not there, as Qui-Gon Jinn. And then he sees you.
I mean, that statement's technically true, but did they explain how much time was in between Kenobi reaching out and him seeing you? Obi-Wan's gone through a journey, and he's reaching out for help, and you're not there. But then, you're not there. But then, you're still not there. But after that, you're not there. And then you're not there, and then you're not there. And anyway, the point is we shoehorn you into the ending to say a meaningless platitude before you roll the credits. Look, this is just speculation on my part. I can't state it as a fact. I just get the impression they were a bit misleading. I sense some bum flufferys afoot. On an unrelated note, did you know that Liam Neeson has stated he won't be returning to the role? Well, I sure am glad we could end things on a high note! What could you possibly have to say about this scene other than...
I know what that is!
I guess I just have higher standards, and by higher standards I of course mean any. This scene is a colossal waste of potential. There are so many interesting things you can do with Obi-Wan finally speaking to his father figure from the afterlife. The same figure who made him promise with his dying words to train who he thought was the Chosen One. The same Chosen One that would lead the attack on the Jedi Temple and spend the rest of his days wiping out the survivors. There's a lot of interesting character work you can do with Obi-Wan. And we'll get into that. But I think a part of this topic that doesn't get enough attention is the interesting stuff you can do with Qui-Gon. Because it will give us a chance to see how Qui-Gon reacted to Anakin's fall to the dark side. Now, I've spoken to people that seem to think Qui-Gon always knew Anakin would turn to the dark side, but there's just nothing to support that. And in fact, the only time we see Qui-Gon react to Anakin's dark side is in episode 2, where he is shouting and begging Anakin to stop.
Anakin! Anakin!
No!
It doesn't sound like everything is going according to plan. Qui-Gon is not omniscient. There is nothing to support he knew Anakin would turn. So, how would he react? Qui-Gon is quite an interesting character, and one of the interesting things about him is he has a very deterministic view of the Force. He was willing to bet the ship they used to get to Tatooine is on Anakin winning the pod race despite the fact he's never even finished a race before, because he believed that is the will of the Force. And Qui-Gon at the time was vindicated. Everything in his eyes worked out according to the will of the Force. He's like a Calvinist or Lutheran or, I don't know, if you're a Christian or just an atheist that's interested in this sort of stuff, type whatever denomination you think Qui-Gon would be in the comments. But the point is, he's a determinist. So how would he react to the fact the Chosen One basket he put all his eggs into made it their life's mission to eradicate all the Jedi? Would this cause Qui-Gon to question himself, to wrestle with his faith in the Force? Surely some part of him must be asking if he was wrong. Or would he double down? And if so, imagine how stubborn and crazy he must be coming across to Obi-Wan. Oh, hello. Oh, by the way, I'm not using AI for this, in case you couldn't tell, so you get to hear my masterful voice acting instead. Oh, hello there, Master. So, about that whole Chosen One thing. Yeah. I still believe that. Well, it's a little late for an apology, but I suppose... Wait, I'm sorry, are you doubling down? You have to give it time, Obi-Wan. Time? He slaughtered the Jedi Temple! You cannot make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. Omelette? He killed younglings! Like a lot of them! Hope is like the sun. What? If you only believe in it when you see it. Okay, shut the fuck up! He has committed a genocide! Libcuck. Huh? I said good luck, Obi-Wan. May the Force be with you. Well, that was productive. You know what, from now on I'm just going to tell people that Yoda trained me. Obviously that's not literally how I want the conversation to go, but you get the idea. We could also explore if Qui-Gon feels guilty for burdening Obi-Wan with not only an apprentice, but the Chosen One himself. That's a lot of pressure on Obi-Wan for a responsibility he was not ready for. People criticize Obi-Wan's impulsiveness in Episode 2.
So I'd almost accept this if Anakin was the one who jumped out the window. Isn't he supposed to be the brash, headstrong apprentice who acts without thinking? But then the worst part is that later, Obi-Wan gets mad at Anakin for doing the same thing.
They missed that that's the point Episode 2 was trying to make.
His abilities have made him, well, arrogant.
Yes. A flaw more and more common among Jedi. Too sure of themselves they are. Even the older, more experienced ones.
That's Yoda's classy way of calling Obi-Wan a hypocrite. Now, to be clear, if your criticism of this scene is that it's contrived that the robot doesn't self-destruct, turning Obi-Wan Kenobi into Obi-Wan Explodey, and that Obi-Wan gets extremely lucky that the droid just leads him straight back to the assassin, which is something, you know, you wouldn't really want the droid to do as an assassin, so I'd have picked one that doesn't do that, then I'd say that's fair. Those are some fair criticisms. I am merely addressing the criticism that Obi-Wan is hypocritical and can also be quite immature. Because yeah, the film already knows this, that's the whole point.
You are reckless.
So was I, if you remember.
You're not supposed to come away from the prequels thinking, oh yeah, Obi-Wan just nailed it as Anakin's master, couldn't have done that any better. Obi-Wan is not as mature as he thinks he is. He's essentially an older brother figure that's had to take charge. He is but a Padawan when he agrees to train Anakin and is only just granted the rank of knight when he begins training him. The massive responsibility of training the Chosen One is something Obi-Wan was just not ready for. And I wonder if Qui-Gon feels some guilt for thrusting that on Obi-Wan. For essentially using his own death, which he survives through the Force by the way, to guilt Obi-Wan into training Anakin. We can have a scene where Obi-Wan apologises to Qui-Gon for failing him and Qui-Gon apologises back, saying that it is him that failed Obi-Wan for the reason I just stated. Now I understand this is Kenobi's show, so we're ultimately focusing on his character, and that Kenobi's runtime is filled with much more important things, so it would have been hard to fit this in. But I just feel like there's a few things you could have cut to make time for this, like, I don't know, all of it? Okay, I'm being hyperbolic. There are a few moments of the Kenobi show that I like, but they're few and far between. I think the Kenobi show should have been a character study and should have focused on Obi-Wan dealing with his trauma from Anakin and Order 66, and wrestling with the fact he now has to train the last hope for the Jedi after failing so catastrophically the last time he did. There was elements of that in there, but the story got bogged down with all the terrible, unnecessary plot points. The less said about Reva, the better. And I think scenes between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan would have been the perfect avenue to explore this. I've already touched upon the idea that Obi-Wan would feel guilt for failing Qui-Gon, but it would also give us an opportunity to explore Obi-Wan's darker side by having a scene where Obi-Wan lashes out at Qui-Gon. Because believe it or not, Last Jedi Defenders, I'm not against characters having moments of weakness. I think it would be quite understandable if in a moment of anger Obi-Wan lashes out, asking why. Why did you make me train him? You told me he was the Chosen One. You made me promise on your dying breath and now he has slaughtered countless Jedi. And the joke of it all? You're not even dead. Not really. Not in a way that matters. You're still here. And they are gone. Forever. Now let me be crystal clear, I do not think Obi-Wan would ultimately blame Qui-Gon for what happened. He's the type of character that would take responsibility himself.
I have failed you, Anakin. I have failed you.
I am merely suggesting a scene where in a moment of understandable anger he lashes out.
Much anger in him. Like his father.
Was I any different when you taught me?
And this would be something he immediately regrets. Because I'm using the term moment of weakness the way people actually use it in real life. And I'm not using it to vaguely describe attempted sleeping nephew murder. I would argue this is perfectly in character. Obi-Wan in the prequels has his angry side. And I'd say it's reasonable for someone in this position to lash out given what happened. As long as we make it clear it was a brief moment of weakness and not what he actually believes. In fact, it could be this moment where he lashes out that severs his connection to Qui-Gon. After all, the light side is powered by peace and tranquility, so if you really want to go in the direction that Obi-Wan is in a weakened state, this would be the better way to do it. I said weakened, not cut off entirely. It's at least a better explanation than he simply cut himself off the Force. Which is such a ridiculous thing to do for a character whose sole purpose in life is to protect and train Luke Skywalker.
Vader was seduced by the dark side of the Force.
The Force?
Yes, it's I don't remember. And the final point I'm going to make is the fact we didn't get a scene where Qui-Gon tells Obi-Wan it's not his fault is just, well, it's baffling to be honest. It just seems like the obvious thing to do. Or have Qui-Gon give the pep talk when he's buried under the rocks. Don't get me wrong, it would have been generic as fuck. But at least it would have been something. As opposed to what we got, which was just nothing. It makes me wonder why you even bothered bringing him back in the first place. Well, okay, we all know why they got him back, so all the headlines would say, Qui-Gon is coming back, getting more people to watch it. Very soulless, very corporate, no vision whatsoever. Thank you, Disney. Look, I've been accused of being biased against Disney Star Wars, but that's not true. I'll admit when I think they've done good. I get Andor isn't for everyone, but I loved it. Mon Mothma getting pissed and raving while her life's falling apart isn't something I knew I needed, but I'm glad I have it now. Very relatable scene. Rogue One is decent, and I'll defend punny Vader. I like that Rogue One actually shows Vader's sassy side from the OT.
Have a nice trip. See you next fall. Don't get ahead of yourself. Is this a party? Then let's raise the roof.
I love the Mandalorian theme song. I'll give Disney credit when it's due. I just make no secret of the fact I prefer Legends over the current canon. If there even is a current canon given how contradictory it always is. Speaking of which...
Show yourself. Can you?
I cannot. My training was incomplete.
You can call that a nitpick, but I call that lazy. Qui-Gon has like 5 minutes of screen time in the Clone Wars. You couldn't have done that grueling amount of research. I know your job of writing Space Wizard TV shows for a living must be exhausting, but can you put in any efforts next time? Maybe I'd be more charitable and treat this as a mild oversight if the rest of the show wasn't so laughably bad. But I am not convinced any effort went into writing this show. You cannot sit there and tell me the trenchcoat scene was a writer trying their best. They knew it was silly, the child actor that starred in it knew it was silly.
How is anyone believing that this random lump inside this guy's coat is just normal? How is this happening?
But the writer couldn't be bothered to think of a better solution, so they kept it in and moved on. But Mug, have you considered a background extra in 1977 once hit his head on the ceiling? Therefore all of Star Wars has to be shit for the rest of time. And to be fair, I probably would think that's a compelling argument if I was a fucking idiot. Which, to be fair, was Kenobi's target demographic, because I can't think of any other reason they'd have Leia peek out of the coat. Really? You couldn't trust the audience to figure that one out? Look, I'm not going to insult your intelligence if you like Kenobi. Not because I'm too mature for that, I'm obviously not. But because the show already does it for me. Look, I'd never call you the R-slur, but the Kenobi show clearly thinks you're a bit of a Look, this video focused on one small part of Kenobi, but you best believe I am not done bashing this show. We are just getting started. And believe me, I have a few choice words for how they handled the Grand Inquisitor. One of the few Disney Star Wars villains I actually liked.
You're not going near it.
I believe I am.
So expect a video about that some point in the future. But for now, I'll leave you with this. Why is their reunion so unemotional? So Obi-Wan sees Qui-Gon Jinn die right in front of him and understandably gets quite emotional about it. Then 13 years after that, he finds out Qui-Gon survived through the Force, and once again he is very visibly emotional. And then, after spending an entire decade just trying to contact him, it finally pays off, and this is his reaction?
Beginning to think you'd never come.
This is how I'd react to my friend showing up to Weatherspoons 2 hours late, not me contacting my father figure from the dead after he died 2 decades ago. So in conclusion, if it wasn't obvious, I don't think they quite nailed this reunion.
How do they make this more and more epic? Every time.
Look, I'd never call you the R-slur, but the Kenobi show clearly thinks you're a bit of a
Tep, and I am evil.